Steve Byrne, by the way, and he said to tell you that he loves you.
Oh, well, I hold him in very high regard. Very funny man. Good dude.
Yeah,
Funny and good dude off stage. That's rare.
Oh, yeah, for sure, especially in this business.
Yeah, he's one of the good ones.
All right, I've got us live, and I've Twittered it and Facebooked it, so hopefully we'll get some people in here in a little bit. Let's pull my notes up here. All right, so how you want to explain everything to them, Jacob, how all this works?
Sure. So basically the premise of the show, this is called Open Micers because we start from your journey as an open micer, your first few times doing comedy, anything crazy that's happened to you at an open mic. And we're going to just try to kind of hit on the, what would you call it, Jason?
Basically what you think the big points are for people that are coming up in comedy that want to maybe start doing open mics or maybe have just been in it for a little while and looking for people that have made it, or at least on their way to making it, giving some good advice, that
happy to share what I have. Don't know if it'll be good advice. That's my disclaimer, but I will definitely share my journey and whatever wisdom I have.
Sounds good. And it is a comedy podcast still too, so if we go off on a tangent or whatever, it's completely fine.
Yeah, and there's really no it's we interview you a bit, but it's really just talk about whatever you feel like talking about. Like there's no we're not we're not hard asses here or anything. This is all good fun.
Rein me back in if I go too far off the reservation.
All right.
Absolutely. So, and also our theme song is absolutely horrible, and we would love your opinion on it.
Okay.
All right. Here we go. In 3, 2, 1.
Just drop that ass, bitch. It's open micers in the house. Pop that pussy with that open micers logo in your mouth. Jason with his bald ass head. Jacob looking in red. It's open micers, bitch. Heard what I said. Drop that ass. Open micers in the house. Drop that ass, pop that pussy. Open micers in the house. Open micers in the house. Open micers in the mouse. Drop that ass, pop that pussy. Open micers in the house. The mic is now open.
And by far, since we've had that theme song, Tom has had the best look on his face so far while the song is playing. And,
I'm shocked. That's actually, I'm offended that you don't like it because that's my prom song. And it brings me back many, many years to that beautiful night.
And this is the Open Micers Podcast. My name is Jason Robbins.
I'm Jacob Craig, and that beautiful voice you hear on the third Zoom screen over there can only be coming from one man. He is somebody that you know from the finals of America's Got Talent, and he has done so much else as well. He has headline shows at the Comedy Cellar. He has taken the stage at some of the biggest places in comedy, including the Just for Laughs Festival. He is the one and the only Tom Cotter. Thanks so much for joining us, my friend.
I'm honored to be here, but I'm not the one and only. I'm the one in a million because in China there's a 10,000 just like me. Hello, everybody. First joke. It's a math joke. Do it.
10,000 Tom Cotters in China.
Yeah,
I dig it. So what did you genuinely feel about our theme song? Because I feel like we've had one guest who has actually liked it. What were your feelings about it?
It's a little redundant. You have to say drop that ass or drop that pussy 72 times that's a little much. I'm worried that it might repel some people initially when they hear it, thinking that it's going to be a much more vulgar show. So I feel like I have to be vulgar now because the theme song was vulgar.
Right.
Well, my mom loves it. I'm
going to drop some ass ends. I'm going to drop some pussy. I don't know how you pop some pussy. I think it is. I don't know how you do that either. That sounds like a medical condition. But I'm opinion free of your theme song.
So
it's a theme song. Who cares? It gets your attention.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. Most podcasts, they don't even have the balls to play the theme song for the guest. They'll just add it in later. We want to get your opinions on this.
I say if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
It's broke.
Okay.
It's broke. That has been a genuine concern of ours, is that we'll play our theme song for a guest and then they'll just log off the Zoom meeting and we won't have a show anymore.
I would never run away from foul language. I lived in a fraternity for 2 years, so I'm fine with that. But I just don't know. It does say the mic is open. I mean, it does do its job.
Yeah, it's open.
Yeah, but I never really thought about it before, Jacob. Because Jacob always yells at me because I try to use Gen Z slang. But is poppin' pussy Gen Z slang? Is that something that I should know, or is that like Tom said?
I know poppin' tags. It means you're going thrift shopping. I don't know what popping pussy means.
Is it a medical condition? Is it something somebody should look out for?
This isn't even Gen Z slang, guys. You've skipped a whole generation. This is like millennial stuff. This is old. Yeah, no one says poppin' pussy anymore. It's old now.
Wow. I missed the whole pop the pussy phase, apparently.
It was a good phase to be in, Tom.
I guess. I don't know how one would pop a pussy, but I'm sure it's fun.
Yeah, I don't think it makes the desired sound, but it definitely...
And the guy who wrote it, the guy who wrote it is in the chat room right now, Mark Simmons, and he says it transcends genres, is what he says.
True that.
Yeah, I think anyone who listens to that song will hate it, no matter what type of music they listen to. It truly transcends.
Well, first of all, he's in the chat room. Let's not hurt his feelings. Second of all, I didn't hate it. I just didn't.
I don't think.
I thought it was a little. My comment was it was a little redundant because it repeated the same thing. But how many other songs repeat the same shit over and over?
Constructive criticism.
I don't think Mark has feelings to hurt. Anyway, he's
he's a pussy popping motherfucker. I can tell you that.
Exactly.
I don't even know the guy.
He's out there dropping ass and popping pussies and all kinds of stuff.
He wins.
He wins, dude. He definitely wins. I'm glad we finally got a good review of our theme song to add to the repertoire.
Not sure it's a good one, but it is. It's mine.
Trust me, it's better than everyone else has given it. Oh man!
Let's get to brass tacks here. We're called the Open Micers Podcast, and we have a guest that man has done some stuff. Jacob, he's done things, so we got to go back to the beginning. We got to take every bolus. Tom, what was your?
That was a long, when I first got into show business, I was quiet and shy because I was a mime, and then I stopped being a mime because I felt it was racist because I had to put white face on every day. So I stopped doing that. I went into stand-up. 1996, I had a date with Destiny. That was the stripper's name, Destiny. We went to a comedy club, and I watched these guys come out one after another and make a room full of strangers laugh. And I thought, wow, I might want to try that one day. And then at the end of the night, Destiny blew the headliner. And I said, I'm going to try that one night. That's going to be something I'm going to pursue. And I was off. No, all right. What I really did, I did it. My first time on stage was a talent show. I did 2 talent shows. One for our fraternity system with Pi Beta Phi, which is the Pi Phis. It's a female sorority. And then we were ATO. We had a stupid little thing, and they made me. My fraternity brothers made me go up there and MC it, and I was hammered. That was the first time. Second time on stage was the Muscular Dystrophy Association telethon kind of talent show that we did to raise money for that. And I did stand up at that, and I made fun of everything: the administration, the faculty, the fraternities, the preppy kids, the Guidos, everybody else. And I got disqualified from that competition that night, so I didn't win the prize, but I got high fives all over campus for the next 2 weeks because I said some irreverent things. And so that's when I thought, I'm going to go try an open mic night. And then my first open mic night was in Providence, Rhode Island, from whence I hail. And I went there 8 weeks in a row and watched on a Wednesday night. Wednesday was their open mic night. And the guy hosting it, Charlie Hall, who became a mentor of mine, a great comic, funny guy, great guy, came up to me after the 8th week and said, I've seen you in here 8 weeks in a row by yourself, sitting in the corner. No one comes to an open mic night to watch the open micers 8 weeks in a row. Clearly you want to try this, grow a dick, get up on stage tonight. And I said, I'm not ready, but I do want to try it. And he said, well, then you have to leave because I'm not going to have you sit. And I went, okay, so I'll go up. So he had the bouncer basically say I had to go up. And I went up and I did 10 jokes. 2 of them worked. 8 of them crashed and burned. But those 2 were enough to get me to want to come back the next week. And then I was off to the races. Sorry that was so long.
No, that's fine. We like all the juicy details.
His opinion. He gave me great wisdom coming up. That's something that your listeners might want to know is that listen to the headliners. You know, a lot of them are full of themselves. A lot of them have, hidden agenda. They're definitely out for themselves. I get all that. But they do have valuable scar tissue. They have wisdom, and they're really smart. When I was new, really, there was 3 of us. There was me, Joe Rogan, and Mike McCarthy. And we were 3 guys. We were in the same kind of group coming up together, and we were filthy. That was the thing about all 3 of us. I had 15 minutes, and it was 15 minutes of just sex jokes. And Rogan was Rogan, and Mike McCarthy was Mike McCarthy. And the headliners kind of hotboxed us. They kind of swarmed on us one night at Nick's, and they said to us, look, you guys seem like you're all right guys, but no one wants to hang out with you. No one wants to work with you because you ruin the audience. You go up and do 15 minutes of filth, and then I'm the headliner. I got to go up and follow that with my clean and clever shit. No one wants to have to dig out of that hole. So we recommend you change what you're doing. And Rogan, to his credit, said, go fuck yourself. And he stuck with his course of action, which has been obviously very, very lucrative. But Mike McCarthy and I both said, yeah, all right, you might be right. And they were right, because when you're filthy, you can't work at some college. Yeah. So the more stuff you're able to do when there's a pandemic or something else, we have a strike right now. If you're also, if you're an actor, you can fall back on stand-up because you've got that many markets to still work in if you're clean. I'm not clean, but I can be clean when I need to at a corporate event.
Yeah, right. I know Jacob tries to do some clean stuff. I try to write some clean stuff, but I don't know. It's just not as interesting to me to not.
Well, again, Rogan seems to have not affected his career too much. So yeah, you can't. Dave Attell has had a great career, but he can't do corporate. I mean, right. I love the guy. He's one of my favorite comics in the world, but he's just so edgy that, when I do a corporate now, they're so paranoid that you're going to say something wrong that, you have to have 4 conference calls leading up to it. Where you got to talk to someone from HR, one of the vice presidents, one of the production people, and they want to make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, but they also want to make sure you're not going to do anything that's transphobic, homophobic, gay bashing, sexist, racist in any way, shape, or form. And
yeah, but I mean, you shouldn't do that anyway. You shouldn't do that anyway. But not
at a corporate event. But they want to make sure heads have rolled. People have been fired. If you're a corporate buyer and you're having an event coming up, big conference, and you can have the Bee Gees tribute band, or you can have a comedian. It's in a dark place, Jacob. It's bad.
Lightly sexually assaulted than to listen to a dirty joke.
It's where we are, man. We came out of a pandemic, and I was like 2 years of unemployment. I married a comedian, so we were just, we were bumming. We couldn't work. So doing these shitty Zoom shows where, you can't even hear the people laughing, or you hear dogs barking or babies crying. It's horrible. So we came out of that into this woke thing that's happening now where everybody's terrified. So now you have to do a corporate, if you're doing an hour, it's 45 minutes of it has to be self-deprecating. It has to be you shitting on yourself because no one's going to get offended by that. But there's other stuff you want to make fun of. That's what comedy is. It's lampooning. It's mocking. Yeah. It's making fun of, and you can no longer make fun of so many things, or you have to do so with such velvet gloves on that it's unfortunate. I hope the pendulum swings back. I'm not trying to paint a bleak picture for your listeners that comedy, it's just in a dark place right now, and it's hard.
Comedy sucks. Turn off this podcast right now.
It's awesome. It's a great way to make comedy is a dream job if you dream of poverty and rejection.
Yeah. Well, you bring up an interesting point with the Zoom mics too, because that's something that's been so unprecedented. I feel like what did you have any sort of nightmare experiences with the Zoom mics? Because I know I did one Zoom show one time where I was being heckled the entire time by somebody who didn't have their camera on and was just typing mean things about me in the chat while I'm trying to do my jokes.
Yeah. And now you got to read your heckles. What the fuck is that all about?
Right. And I have to take a break to read it.
Now I got to read the shit?
Yeah.
Yeah. They were horrible.
My 8th grade education, just moving my lips.
Yeah, that happened all the time too. You had the Godzilla movies, where the lips didn't sync with I didn't like the Zoom thing. People were in their homes. I did a million of them. Ray Ellen, Aruba Ray, is a good friend of mine. We go back to Boston, so we go back 30 years. And so when he wasn't having me in Aruba, thank God, for his club there and the other guys, which we all loved, that was a great escape during COVID. The other thing he was doing is keeping us busy. For some reason, he had the market cornered in the Zoom thing. So we did a billion of them. Some of them didn't suck so bad, and I felt like we were getting better at them as they went along. But man, I heard literally screaming children, people farting. And you hear that. You just can't. They're in their living room and they feel people are comfortable. They also break into conversation because there's no filter, there's no bouncer in their living room telling them to shut up. So that happens. So who do you mute, who do you not mute became a big thing. So some of them we unmuted 10 people for a show with 200 people in attendance because you didn't want to hear the background bullshit. I literally heard a guy argue with his pizza delivery guy over his tip, and it went on for 5 minutes because his voice was louder than anybody else. And as you know on Zoom, the loudest voice takes over. So it went on forever, and we try to do play-by-play, but you're getting cut off. It was the worst. I hated the Zoom stuff.
I did 2 Zoom shows, and I was like, I can't do any more of these things because I just wanted to just die after that second one. I was like, I just can't. I can't mentally do this. It's awful.
They are awful. I did a bunch of them, and it was okay, and the money was okay because the commute was easy, and I literally did. I can say it with honesty. I performed multiple times in my underwear, unbeknownst to the audience, and so it served its purpose. I was glad to have it.
I'm in my underwear right now.
Well, I have underwear on too, but I have pants on over them.
That's the beauty of podcasting.
Damn right.
Look, I had the luxury of trying to go to college during the pandemic as well.
Oh, and God, I feel so bad.
Yeah, the Zoom classroom is kind of worse than the Zoom open mic. I hate to break it to you guys. Because we had this class one time where we were doing a novel study about Jack Kerouac on the road or something like that. And he, like, the book or whatever we were reading had just a ton of racial slurs in it. And so our teacher got on her high horse about how, like, a whole racial slur thing. And then several people just start typing them in the chat and like will not stop. And they don't even realize that they're doing it. They're just like, is blank a racial slur? Is blah, blah, blah a racial slur? And they just keep saying it over and over again to where she has to just end the class because the entire class is typing racial slurs into the chat room.
Well, she started that by going up on her high horse and,
Yeah, if she would have just let us say a few,
Yeah, I feel bad for you guys who were in college during the pandemic because here you are at your sexual peak and you're being told to stay 6 feet away from people. That's horrible. I think your generation has taken a beating on that others haven't, and yeah, I feel bad.
Well, to be fair, most people want Jacob to stay at least 6 feet away from them at all times. So.
Yeah. Jacob, you don't have to take that.
No, but I was taking quite a few beatings during my sexual peak. If you know
It happens.
All right, so we are doing comedy in Boston. You're an open micer. How long are you doing open mics? How long are you doing local shows before you start to really like break into comedy clubs?
Boston, I'm very blessed. When you start doing comedy in Providence, Rhode Island, you have an option. You can go 1 hour north to Boston or you can go 3 hours south to New York. I eventually ended up here in New York. I've been here for 20 years. But I value the time that I spent in Boston so much. And I am so thrilled that just the people I was working with all the time before me was Jay Leno and Stephen Wright and Dennis Leary and Bob Goldthwait. A lot of guys who just went to college in Boston and stuck around. They weren't from Boston. There was such a great comedy community there. And when I showed up, the open micers, we were a force. We were a team. There were so many of us. And we would hang out on the off nights, and there were so many open mics. We were lucky, but now I feel bad for the people starting now. Because when I started, the headliners would say to us, I feel bad for you guys. There's only 4 open mic nights this week. There's only 4 opportunities to get on stage, and all you had to do is sign a piece of paper and show up. Because they were like, when we were starting, there were 2 open mics a night. You couldn't get, but I was happy to have the 4. 4 was more than enough for me. And now there's barely any, and you got to do these bringer shows where you have to harass 10 or 15 of your friends or family to come see the show. I never did that. I never would do that. That would be a deal breaker. I would have gotten out of comedy if I had to harass my friends, family, or coworker to come see me in order for me to get stage time. So there was a club in Boston called Dick Doherty's Comedy Vault, and he would sometimes ask you to set up chairs before the show or something, and some people did that to get stage time. But I was just, there was plenty of stage time. There were plenty of open mics, and we were always hanging out together. We were thick as thieves. It was Greg Fitzsimmons, and we played softball together during the day, and then we'd tell jokes at night. And Louis C.K., Nick DiPaolo, God, there was such a huge Billy Burr, Dane Cook. It was crazy. David Cross, they were all there. And there were clicky comics, like over in Harvard Square, there was a Catch a Rising Star. That's where Louis C.K. hung out. That's where Brian Kiley hung out. He's the head writer for Conan for 20 years. A million other guys who were really good, very smart people that ended up going into writing. And then there were Nick's comics, who were basically your club comics, your touring road comics. And we'd get together and play softball against each other, and it was very cool. But there was plenty of stage time back then, because Boston is all bars that, the bars would have open mic nights. There were pubs that would have open mic nights. And so Boston is hospitals, bars, and colleges. And so it's a great comedy town, and all the bars, until karaoke came along, they all had a comedy night. Every bar had a comedy night, and there was just tons of stage time.
Well, it sounds like all those names you just said, like from the Boston scene, like that just sounds like an amazing time to be coming up in comedy.
I was so lucky to be in that mix with all those people, because so many of them have become lifelong dear friends. But we just had a reunion in October. August. We had a reunion in Giggles Comedy Club, which is in Saugus, Massachusetts. Lenny Clark is a famous comic. His brother Mike owns Giggles Comedy Club. And so we had the reunion there, and it was so great to see so many old people. And then a lot of guys were on the road and couldn't make it. But man, it was so great to see that we had slideshows and all these old photos, and everybody stumbled down memory lane. It was great. Cool. It was a great time to be. I mentioned that on another podcast, and Richie Minervini just put me in my place and schooled me, because I was saying what a great comedy town Boston was, and he was like, "Well, Long Island's better." And I said, "Really?" And he said, rattled him off. It's unbelievable. It's not Manhattan, but Long Island has Jerry Seinfeld, Ray Romano, Rosie O'Donnell, Chris Rock, Seinfeld. God, it's unbelievable. Eddie Murphy. I'm just scratching the surface. Kevin James. The amount of money that's come out of Long Island and that comedy scene trumps anyone anywhere. It's unbelievable.
They should probably put some money back into Long Island.
I hate Long Island, dude. I'm with you on that. Can't stand it. Worst traffic in the world. Love their iced tea. But to have, for whatever reason, Boston and Long Island have had this great comedy explosion out of those two cities. Other cities as well, but those two in particular just blow me away with the amount of talent that have come out of those two schools.
Yeah. And so the Boston comedy scene at this time, was it very rough at all? Because I know that Boston kind of has a reputation of, being a rough area for comedy.
It was rough. Greg Fitzsimmons famously says, he's a New York kid who went to Boston University. And so he started his comedy career in Boston. He's one of those guys. So did Alon Gold, went to BU. And Jeff Ross. They were just the BU guys. the Emerson people were crazy. That's where so many great comics came out of there. And then there were, comics from Boston College and everywhere else. Anyway, Greg Fitzsimmons says the thing about Boston is you learn to kill. Nick's comedy stop was called Thunderdome. And if you remember the movie Thunderdome, it said 2 men enter, 1 man leaves, which means you have to kill. And it was just, headliner slaying, another headliner slaying, another headliner slaying. That's what the shows were. And it was crazy. It was just, the amount of energy in a room back then was crazy. No one wanted to follow Dane Cook. I can tell you that. That was his. He had to close those shows.
So what do you feel about what's happened to Dane Cook these days? He's kind of really fallen far from the spotlight.
Yeah, I'm always going to be on Dane's side. I think a lot of the backstabbing that happened to him when he was on his way up is out of jealousy. I think a lot of people were really jealous of what was going on with Dane. Dane was always good to me. I married a comic out of Boston, Kerry Louise. He was always good to my wife. I don't have a bad thing to say about him. A lot of comics mocked him because he was, big in a different market. He was in the college market. But I say cha-ching. We all would do the same goddamn thing.
He was really...
He mastered the social media thing with MySpace. Mastered it. Had a black belt at it. Mm-hmm. And, I prefer to look back in awe and respect at what he did rather than, bitterness and anger and why wasn't that me? Dane's a talented dude. He could read the phone book and make it funny. And side note, another comic out of Boston that we all loved, one of my dearest friends, Kevin Knox, was dying of cancer. They were doing benefits for him. And, each benefit was raising maybe $1,000, couple $1,000. Dane took his night off to fill a room in L.A., taking a big financial hit himself to fill it with his people. It was sold out. And that night they made someone said $35,000 for this guy who's dying of cancer. Wow. And so I'm on Dane's side. I'm Team Dane for whatever, and I'll take his career over mine any day. He's had a great run. He's still out there touring, and good for him.
Well, I saw a video with him not too long ago, an interview with him where he was talking about at that time, like around 2003, 2004. When he was coming up and MySpace was really starting to take off, he would go do the open mics or whatever. And he said while all the other comics were going out, getting drunk or whatever for the rest of the night, he was going back to the apartment and he would spend literally like 6, 7, 8 hours answering and talking to every single person on MySpace, like one-on-one, like answering their messages and stuff like that. So he was spending a lot of time building, that social media following. So, good on him for what he did and seeing that way before everybody else did. And everybody else got jealous and just tore him down for it.
Yeah. People, there's so much backstabbing in this business. It's so crazy. I was worried when I went on America's Got Talent that that was one of my biggest fears is, the comedy community is going to shit all over me. And they were surprisingly nice. I was, there was some people, of course, who threw some stones, which was fine. But the vast majority, I was surprised by how nice people were, and I was pleasantly surprised. And I like it when people are less that way. Hassan Minhaj right now is getting some shit in the news. I don't know if you read all that stuff.
Right.
But I prefer to celebrate the accomplishments of my peers rather than crap all over them. Dane did that. He really did go home every night and not just made a fan, but a friend, a loyal friend. And those kids followed him all through. They were kids when he really started doing it, and they grew up through high school and college and followed him. And that's why he did arenas. He did fucking arenas. Dane Cook lost $5 million and didn't know he lost it until his accountant said to him, "Hey, you're missing $5 million." And then they found out the perpetrator and nailed the guy. But I would love to be in a position where I misplaced $5 million and I have no idea I fucking misplaced $5 million. Yeah. So, good on Dane.
It's the guy right.
That's what he did. That's the book on him. Is he did his homework. He knew how to do it. He responded to everybody. Mm-hmm. It's like the old guys. The back in the 50s where you'd get a handwritten note from Sinatra. Dane Cook reached out to some little girl in Iowa, and she was like, fuck, I love this man forever. That's how you do business.
And you can still do that today, you know.
I don't have time for that shit. Not doing that.
Look, we see it happening again today. I mean, Matt Rife essentially took the Dane Cook formula and ran with it.
And he's still running with it. So, and I say that you got to adapt to the marketplace. It's changed. Yeah. I've been at this way too long, guys. I've been at this for over 35 years. And I watched from going to send me a tape. That was when everyone said, when you were in the business, send me a tape. And you'd sent them a VHS tape. And a big honking VHS in the mail. You'd send that. With a press kit. You had something called a press kit, which had, your resume, and it was all in a folder and everything. You'd send that out. And, now it's all one click, and they decide whether or not they want you. It's changed so dramatically. And some of the changes are good, but this woke thing that's happening now where you can't say anything is a disturbing trend.
So how was it going on America's Got Talent? Like, is that just sort of I can't imagine the stress level of having to do something like that.
Yeah. That was I had diarrhea that whole summer. I had acne and diarrhea, and I was 48 years old. So that's sad. It's very stressful. All right. Here's the story on the AGT. For years, everyone said, you have to do it. They'd say to me, you have to do it because if you've watched my act at all, I'm a one-liner guy. I'm a rapid-fire, one-liner misdirection guy. And that formula fits nicely into the 90 seconds. We had 90 seconds to perform on that show. It's ridiculous. They'll do 5 minutes of video on you and your family before you perform, and then they'll give you 90 fucking seconds, pardon my language, to perform. But that's what they did. So everyone said, year after year, agents, managers, other comedians, comedy club owners would say to me, you got to go on the show. It's perfect for you. It's 90 seconds. You can cram a lot of jokes into that 90 seconds. Go on. And I wouldn't do it because we watched it as a family with my 3 sons. And we thought that Pierce Morgan just hated season 7 and Howard Stern took his seat. The judge panel now was Howie Mandel, a comic, Sharon Osbourne, the wife of the Prince of Darkness, and Howard Stern, who's basically a comedian. And that's a great judges panel for comedians.
Oh, yeah.
So finally, I was like, I'm not getting any younger, and if I'm going to try something, we hated reality TV. We hated these shows because they replaced the sitcom, and we were all like, as comedians, we're like, well, where are comedians going to be? And now we're all sleeping with the enemy, and we're all doing these goddamn shows. But yes, so I went on that season, and I got lucky and moved along and had a nice run, and I'm very fortunate. It was the best thing that ever happened in my career.
Was there ever any point on America's Got Talent where you thought for sure, well, this is as far as I'm making it. It's been a good run.
Couple times. The Vegas show, they had 8 comics, and we knew they were going to cut it down to 2. And so your odds are not good there. But I made that cut. But I was surprised to make that cut. I'm not, telegenic. I'm not eye candy. There were younger comics and stuff, but I think I was the grizzled old veteran at 48 of these comics. So I think that may have helped me push through. I don't know, but whatever. The Vegas round, I moved on. And then the first live round, I got in my head and I came out for rehearsal and did a set. I had to have 7 sets approved in advance. So I had 7 90-second sets approved with standards and practices. They wanted to do it all at once, and they said, that way, if you go to the end of the show, we'll know, which one you're doing. We will have approved them already along the way. So I practiced a set that I was going to do that night, but during rehearsal, it's an empty theater. It's just cameramen, and that's it. And there was no laughter. And I was like, I'm not confident with that set. So I changed it that night without telling my producer, the director, anybody. And they all freaked out. You can find the tape, but even Nick Cannon was like, wow, you had us nervous because, it's a live show and they don't know what the hell I'm going to say. And I wasn't saying what I had rehearsed. And so, but I thought they were going to throw me off the show after that. But I moved on and they were cool. The executive producer came back to me and said, look, I'm in the director's truck outside, and when the director is freaking out and everyone else is freaking out, that makes me freak out. We freaked out. You can't do that to us again. I said, I promise I won't do that to you again. But yeah, I made it past that, and then I had, no comic had ever made it to the finals, so I was confident that wasn't going to happen. Since then, there've been, I think, 4 comics have been the runner-up now, at least 3 of us. And others have made the finals. So that, I feel like I'm glad I was the one that got the door open, but others have come in now. We just need to win the goddamn thing. A comic has never won. I was on 2 years ago with Josh Blue in the finals. We did a little skit because he won Last Comic Standing. I thought he'd win. He's so funny, and he's got MS, multiple sclerosis, and so you pull on the heartstrings there too. He's just a great dude, and he didn't win. I don't know what the hell you have to do to win the goddamn show, but it's never been won by a comedian in 20 seasons now or whatever it is.
And so, do you think that it's possibly because you have to go through so much as a comedian on that show, where you have to submit so much to be approved, whereas if you have a dog act or a dance or whatever, it's not. You don't have to do that.
They were pretty cool with me. They only had a problem with one joke, literally. Of all the ones I submitted, now I knew I was doing TV, so I wasn't submitting anything that was really out there. But it was the first year of Howard Stern as a judge, and they wanted to have his fans come aboard, and they knew he was edgy, so they didn't mind me being edgy. And they said, we have a 7-second delay when you do the live thing. If you slip and drop an F-bomb in there, we can cover that. So I knew I wasn't going to get in trouble. I think it's harder for a comedian because it's a big stage. My season, the guy everyone thought was going to win played an enormous harp. It had strings that went all the way through the theater, like from the stage all the way up to the rafters of the theater, and he played this thing. And everyone thought he was going to win because it was the most unique act, and it was great. Well, the first episode, he comes out with just the harp. Second episode, after he moves on, every time he moves on, you come back. He comes back, he's got a full band with him, with the harp. Third episode, he's got these women flying around on trapeze above the harp. He's got the band, he's got dancers. And it's like, every time if you're an act like that, you can up it. The last one, he had like laser shows and shit. What can you do as a comedian? And that's a big stage. So I did some gimmicky shit that I rolled the dice with. Literally, I thought, it may not work, but I did some stuff where I let them pick the topic, and then the finals, I literally rolled a die that had 6 topics on it, to just fire into my material from whatever it landed on, just to make it more interesting.
You should have came out with lasers and pyro, like a Kiss concert.
I know, I should have. When I did Champions, they had Paul Pot won my night. Paul Pot is a opera singer from Britain. Champions is where they have all the finalists from all over the world get together and do their thing. And so I was up against Paul Pot. Everyone knew Paul Pot was going to win, but I didn't know how much they were stacking me to get. I wanted a dog. I wanted to walk out with a dog because I lost to a dog act on America's Got Talent. I wanted to walk out with a dog, and we were going to call the dog Simon Growl. It was supposed to get a little thing. That they wouldn't even hire me a dog. They had to harass someone on the staff to loan me their little shitty mangy dog. Then I found out that not only did they fly in Paul Pot's entire team, there's like 50 people from Britain to LA to do. They flew in a whole laser team from Britain to do his while he was singing opera. And I'm like, you motherfucker, you wouldn't give me one dog, and you brought in 60 people from England with anyway. So I was annoyed at that.
Do you think a comic will ever be able to win America's Got Talent at this point?
I do. I think at some point, I think America is going to go, come on. Why is that? There's, jazz and stand-up comedy are kind of 2 uniquely American art forms. Why America's Got Talent, who, by the way, the judges, my judges, Howie Mandel, Canadian, Sharon Osbourne, British, Howard Stern was the only American judge. Mm-hmm. And now, since then, you've had Mel B, who's British. You've got Simon back on there. You've got who's
Heidi Klum.
Heidi's from Germany. Nobody's American, and it's America's Got Talent. but do I think eventually, Howard Stern said when he came aboard, he said, I want to see a comedian win the show and I want to see a rock band win the show. Neither has happened. It's always been singers, magicians. Yeah. Those are the biggest. Ventriloquists do pretty well.
Time to get my band, Falls from Grace, on America's Got Talent, everybody. Start that hashtag on Twitter.
Do it. Let's get it on there.
Never gonna happen.
If you have little dogs in front of the stage with you, you probably
we'll bring you out with us, Tom. We'll bring out the little dog. We'll have lasers. We'll have pyro. It'll be fucking awesome, man.
My wife and I now call it America's Got Problems because you have to have some horrible sob story to make it to the finals. It's unbelievable. Since me, the comedians, and they're all funny guys, but one guy had Tourette's, one guy has a stuttering issue, one is Josh Blue, who's got MS, not MS.
Does he have cerebral palsy?
CP. I always get them confused. A couple of years ago in the finals, you had a girl who was in a plane crash. So she was the only one who survived the plane crash, burns all over her body. She was a singer. You had another girl who was a singer whose father was diagnosed with cancer on the first episode and died by episode 4. It was unbelievable. You had a box of tissues the whole time.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, just go by the talent.
Right. And it sucks too, because these people are really talented, and it's almost like that's getting taken away from them in a way, because it opens a door for people to say, oh, well, you're only there because you have a disability. It's not because of your talent.
Reality is never reality. And Last Comic Standing was way worse because they pre-recorded that. So they could definitely manipulate stuff in editing. So they made guys who bombed look like they were doing well, and guys who did really well look like they were bombing.
Wow.
And why would you do that? What purpose is that for? I understand you're casting a show, but tell America you're casting a show. Don't eliminate, someone else who was talented and help them make them into a star. That's his talent. But how are you judging someone else? I don't know. It's all the competition shows.
I don't like
comedy competitions. I've been in a million comedy competitions, and I've done, knock wood, I've had some good runs with them. But it's always weird for me. Who's to say that Robin Williams is any more or less funny than Stephen Wright? One's a monologist, one's a zany, over the top performer. Same with Jim Carrey and Mitch Hedberg. How do you say which one of those is better? They're completely different kind of comedy.
Yeah.
So it's always apples and oranges.
Right. And what was your experience like on Last Comic Standing as compared to America's Got Talent?
Man, you guys, you should change the name of this podcast to The Bitter Guy. I'm only bitter because and I'm not even bitter for myself. I don't think I should have been. I made it from when they went, they start with thousands of people. They got to New York, and they went from 40, we had 40 of us, down to 20. And I didn't make the cut from 40 to 20. My wife did. And don't think I don't hear about that every time the trash doesn't go out. That comes up very frequently. But anyway, she made it from 40 to 20. She made the top 20, and then they cut that in half in Vegas and went from 20 to 10, and the 10 went into the house. Well, that's where I was in the audience because I was there supporting my wife, and I watched the whole debacle that was on the cover of Entertainment Weekly when it said, "When is reality not reality?" And it was a big story in there because it was such a farce. A lot of people called it not Last Comic Standing. They called it I can't remember. Last Client Standing, because two of the producers of the show were managers and had a bunch of their clients get into the house who everyone thought did not deserve to get into the house over laughing so hard at Dan Natterman. Dan Natterman and the other judges agreed was the number one guy that night. Dan Natterman did not make it into the house. Two people who got booed off the stage that night both made it into the house. Wow. And we were all there to watch it. And the judges stood up and walked out when the producers came out and read the 10 who were going to the house, because they were like, that's not the list we gave you. And then the producer said, well, you're just eye candy. You're not really making the decisions. The fine print says the NBC executives and the producers of the show make the decisions. And so, Drew Carey went to Entertainment Weekly and said, look, they made a fool out of me. You know, I won't do this to other comics. It's not fair. I was there once, and it became a big scandal. And that's kind of what the show was. It was okay. I mean, it was fine. It did some nice things for dear friends of mine. Corey Kahaney had a great run on that show. You know, there are other people who are friends of mine who did very well on the show, and I kudos to them. But they were able to manipulate around. They inserted the sound of crickets behind two of my friends when they auditioned at a comedy club. Now, there are cockroaches everywhere in comedy clubs in Manhattan. There are no fucking crickets. Why would you put the sound of crickets behind, except to humiliate these two guys who some junior producer who's never told a joke in his life decided, hey, let's make fun of these guys. Yeah. Go fuck yourself, you know?
Yeah. To make you look better, Tom, anyone we've ever asked about Last Comic Standing on this show has had absolute nightmare stories to tell about that show. So it's not like you're bitter because you didn't make it. It's just the show was not a good format.
The show, in summation, I will say it was immensely popular. It was on NBC, and the top show of that season was the last episode of Friends. Was that season, the last season of Flurries. The final prize, the grand prize of the first episode of the first season of Last Comic Standing was a $50,000 development deal with NBC. So if you're NBC and they're both getting similar ratings, Friends is getting a little more than Last Comic Standing, but not much more. And your big payout at the end of you're paying Jay Moore as the host, but that's it.
Yeah.
Or you're paying Friends, which is making $8 million just for the cast per episode. What are you going to do? And that's why NBC went with reality shows, and everybody else went with reality shows. They're so much cheaper to make, and that's why we hated them, because they replaced the sitcom. And then I ended up sleeping with the enemy by going on America's Got Talent. So I'm a hypocrite, everybody.
Well, we are coming up close to the end of the episode, Jacob. And he did mention that, Tom, you mentioned that before you went on America's Got Talent that you had diarrhea for a while. So
in acne.
And there's something we need that Jacob likes to ask all of our the people we have on the show. So, and what it boils down to is we're on two sides of the same coin. Jacob believes that it's okay to shit yourself occasionally. I say you shouldn't shit yourself if you're a full-grown adult. So, Jacob, you want to take it from here?
Well, I mean, you summed it up pretty well, Jason. We present this quandary to all of our esteemed guests.
A 4-ounce bottle of Imodium AD. None of your business, but I had that with me, and they took it away from me. They confiscated it because it's a liquid. And I said to them, if you take that from me, I can almost guarantee you there'll be an explosion on this flight. Well, I don't know if you picked up a newspaper last week, but I'm no longer welcome on Delta. And it was a very, very bad experience.
Oh. You came running out of it. Why were you naked when you come running out of the bathroom, shitting down?
That was a woman, I heard. I heard that was a woman, actually, that did that. And I heard she got back on the plane. After they cleaned it, she got back on the plane. I would not have let her back on the plane if I were the other passengers. But anyway, you know what? It's Jacob. You're a young man. Shit works on you, right? You probably have normal bowel movements. Let me tell you something. I just turned 40 in 2005. And so my system is different, okay? You've never sat on a testicle. Well, that shit's coming, all right? So relax. It'll happen. You get a little older. Your body doesn't cooperate, and you shart. You know, you mean to fart, but it becomes a shart, and it's an issue. And I haven't had one in years, but I know that they can happen, and they've happened to friends of mine. My brother was playing golf, quick story, playing golf with two older gentlemen, and it was he and his dad and his buddy and his dad. And the older guys were in one golf cart, and they were in another. They stopped at a hole. His friend's father jumped in the golf cart and sped away. As he sped away, he looked over his shoulder, and he said, "I drew mud, boys. I drew mud," which meant he shit his pants. And he was going to the clubhouse. So it happens. Apparently it happens. It's unfortunate, but I don't need diapers yet, but I'm sure it's coming.
Yeah, but Jacob shit himself 3 weeks in a row on the same night for 3 weeks in a row. And
well, then it's just a holiday. It's a habit at that point, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean it's not. there's nothing in common except it was on a Tuesday every time.
And so why are we talking on a Tuesday night right now?
I don't know, but we need to wrap it up.
Sorry. Well, you wanted to end it with explosive diarrhea. I don't know.
I do have Tom. You're here for. We're making history right now. We're making history right now, everybody. Mr. Mark Simmons has sent me an audio clip of apparently a new theme song for us. Would you guys? Would you like to hear?
I'm intrigued.
A snippet. All right, let's see.
I guess, dude. Come on.
All right, I don't know what this is. This is live on the show right now, so I have no idea what's coming. So
you edit this show, so if it's something heinous, just keep that in mind that you edit this.
Can it be worse than popping pussy and dropping ass?
We'll find out. Here we go. All right, a good.
Yeah.
Was that it?
It sucks.
It was just him going, yeah.
It's like 10 seconds so far, and it's just him breathing and strumming a guitar.
Just drop that ass, just drop that ass. It's open micers in the house. Pop that pussy with that open micers logo in your mouth.
He's giving it a little jazz theme. Little nightclub lounge act. I like it.
Chasing with his bald ass head.
It's the same song.
Mark, good effort, buddy. Don't listen to the haters. It's a nice effort.
I mean, it was some nice smooth jazz. I'll give him that, but a minute and 4 seconds is way too long for an opening theme song, especially for a comedy podcast. Come on, man. Yeah. What are you doing over there?
You got to get right to the popping pussy.
Yeah, right as soon as it starts, just popping pussy, like there on the top. Jacob, you just look horrified.
I hate this. I hate everything about this. I don't know why he did this to us. I don't know why. It's almost like he camped out live in the chat this whole time to just drop the even worse theme song on all three of us. Why would he do this? Why would he do this after 9/11? Do it before 9/11, but if you're going to drop bombs like this.
I don't know. I mean... I'm just gonna keep playing the other one for now because it's nice, fast pace to it, but yeah, Mark, it's a little too slow, buddy. It needs to be a little more. He
somehow made it worse. He made a worse song.
But we appreciate the effort.
Yeah, we appreciate it. But
Tom's our nice translator.
Yeah,
that's what we're trying to say.
It has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, man.
Gentlemen, it's been a blast. Nice way to spend a Tuesday evening other than shitting in your pants.
Well, tell everybody what you got going on these days. Are you doing any touring? Or you got any albums coming out?
This Thursday, I'm at Parks Casino, which is just outside of Philadelphia. And Friday night, I'm in Woonsocket, Rhode Island, at a place called the Stadium Theater. And then I head to the Villages. I don't know if you ever heard of the Villages in Florida. But it's a retirement community down there where they have a high rate of STDs. I don't know if you've heard about that.
I've heard of this.
Google it. Yeah. And they hang pineapples upside down. That means they're swingers or some such shit. I don't know. I'm going to just go and tell jokes.
They're definitely popping pussies down there in the Florida retirement community.
They are popping some petrified pussy down there. They are.
Something.
I will be there on the weekend. And then Saturday and Sunday, and then I come back Monday, and then after that, probably rehab. I can't remember where I am after that. Somewhere.
Awesome.
What
about you, Jacob? What you got coming up? You got any comedy spots coming up soon?
Yes, sir. October 6th in Mobile at the Alabama Music Box. You can catch me on the Stone versus Drunk versus Sober showcase. I will be representing Team Drunk along with Isaac Cosell. And on the Open Micers podcast, we've got Matt O'Brien coming up next week. He was a staff writer on Conan O'Brien. We also have Sean Donnelly and the return of Mo Alexander. So a lot of fun things happening on the Open Micers.
And Sean Donnelly's a great dude. And let me interrupt just for a second and say I love the concept of the sober versus drunk. I've never heard that at a comedy club. That's great.
I've done that showcase a couple of times before, and I think it's one of the best showcases in the country.
got to be. That's tremendous. Bravo. Yeah, whoever came up with that, kudos.
That would be Jason P. Leonard out of Lafayette Comedy.
Nice job.
Came up with that.
But thank you, Tom, for coming on. You can follow Mr. Tom at Tom Cotter Comic on Instagram and I believe Twitter as well, or X or whatever he's calling it these days. So go follow him there. Go follow him, tomcotter.com, for all the ticket info and everything you need.
I'm on Facebook and TikTok as Tom_Cotter. I'm pretty easy to find. So check me out.
Well, awesome. Well, if you'd like to email us, you can email us at openmicerspodcast@gmail.com. We're at openmicers.com. Go read some of Jacob's blog stuff over there that he puts out in every single month. And you can just go to Linktree/openmicerspodcast, and that'll take you everywhere you need to go. And we love you guys so much, and we will see you right here next week. All right, and thank you all for watching on YouTube.